I've seen so many people rush into the cheapest acoustic electric they can find, only to end up with a thin-sounding instrument that squeals through an amp and makes practice feel like a chore. The regret is real. You spend a weekend with a deal and discover you're basically buying a piece of furniture, not a guitar that actually inspires you to play. So the question I keep getting is, does the Taylor 217E Plus Grand Pacific in black feel like a smarter buy? Or is it just another pretty-looking option with a price tag that doesn't justify the results? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing to understand is the niche this guitar sits in. It's an acoustic electric designed for players who need a reliable stage voice without lugging a full-size dreadnought, but who also want enough resonance for serious practice at home. Taylor's Grand Pacific body shape is a bit narrower than a traditional grand auditorium, which means you get a comfortable armrest and a sweet spot that sits nicely on a small stage or a cramped bedroom. The real differentiator, though, is the Torrefied spruce top. Taylor torrefies the wood to simulate the aging process you'd get after decades of playing, so the total response is meant to be open and balanced right out of the box, not the closed-in vibe you sometimes hear on lower-priced spruce tops. If you're the kind of guitarist who spends a lot of time finger-picking folk tunes in the living room, the Ebony Fingerboard feels solid under your fingertips. Ebony gives a smoother surface than rosewood, so slides and bends are less sticky, and the natural dark contrast against the black body makes the fretboard easy to read in low-light gigs. The maple back and sides contribute a bright, articulate edge that complements the warm, slightly rolled top. In practice, that translates to a clean attack when you're strumming a rhythmic pattern, yet you still get a warm sustain when you let a chord ring out. Now, who should actually consider this instrument? If you're a gigging singer-songwriter who needs to plug into a PA system but also wants to feel comfortable playing unplugged at a coffee shop, the 217E Plus hits a sweet spot. The built-in Taylor expression system pickup is discreet, and because it's a piezotype with a little onboard preamp, you can get a clear, natural tone without the harsh, boxy sound you sometimes get from cheaper preamps. The onboard volume knob lets you dial down a little for intimate settings, and the blend control lets you mix the acoustic body with the electronic signal, giving you that semi-acoustic vibe many folk rock players love. If you're a bedroom player who only needs an acoustic for casual jam sessions, you could probably get a decent sound from a standard acoustic that's a lot cheaper. The 217E Plus shines when you actually need the electric side, whether that's a small club, a rehearsal space, or a backyard party where you'll be plugging into a small amp. On the flip side, if you're a heavy metal shredder or a progressive player looking for ultra-low tunings, the Grand Pacific body and maple back may not give you the deep low-end punch you expect, and you might find the string tension a bit tighter than on a larger dreadnought. In that case, you might skip this model in favor of something with a bigger body and a different wood combination. Let's talk about the practical strengths that become obvious after a few weeks of playing. First, the neck profile. It's a modern Taylor shape that's slightly thinner at the nut than a traditional shape, which makes it easier for players with smaller hands to reach around the lower frets. When I tested it on a few chord progressions, I didn't have to stretch as far for a full bar, and the maple neck gave a stable feel that didn't warp after a day of intense practice. Second, the cutaway. The Grand Pacific has a deep cutaway that lets you access the 12th fret comfortably, a feature you'll appreciate if you do a lot of lead lines or higher register chord voicings. Third, the aesthetic. The sleek black finish is more than a fashion statement, it actually hides fingerprints and minor dings better than a high-gloss sunburst, which can be a small but nice convenience for a gigging musician who moves a lot of gear. On the downside, there are a couple of hidden trade-offs you won't see on the spec sheet. The Torrefied top, while sounding mature, can be a little more fragile in extreme humidity swings. If you live in a very dry climate or travel frequently, you'll want to keep the guitar in a case with a humidifier to avoid the wood cracking over time. The built-in preamp, despite its reputation, can pick up a faint hum when you're close to a strong stage monitor, so you may need a small noise gate or a decent quality amp with good shielding if you're playing in louder venues. Finally, the black hardware, while stylish, can show smudges from your hands more readily than a natural wood finish, so